Hi everyone, this is CL Aldridge, CL Aldridge Art, Christine, and I come to you today with just a follow-up on a couple of things that I've talked about before. One of them is my journey through art. I used to do a lot of different things. I used to make jewelry, and I'm glad I went and found this today to show it to you. This is a necklace that I designed the clasp on, as well as, of course, the overall design. I wore it to my nephew's wedding. I thought I lost these earrings 10 years ago when they got married, 3 children before. And sure enough, I found them in the bag with the necklace. Yay. These were a couple of other things that I used to make. These are pendants. They're made out of polymer clay. They have a little loop thing. You could use them. They're a little lightweight to wear around your neck, but they were great to attach to a bag or as a zipper pull, something like that. I did little pins using various art. It's the name of my old company, Stonehouse Jewelry, because I lived in a big stone house that was very, very difficult to heat. Uh, Obviously, Queen Victoria. Um, Another pendant. At any rate, those are the things from my previous art experiences. I also quickly mentioned the very first drawing that I ever did. This was the first drawing that I ever offered for sale. It was called Botanical Mandela number 6, and it's what I started my Etsy shop with. For those of you who are artists who want to do coloring groups and things like that, start with a picture, color it, put it in your Etsy shop, tell people where they can find it. If people are interested in your art, they will go start buying it. If they don't, draw something else and try again. This was my very first book. I made all my rookie mistakes in this book. It's a beautiful cover. It's just not as good as the cover that's on it now. This, by the way, I did color with those Kodak. Let's see if I can fix this light a little bit. With those Kodak colored pencils. I did it on super smooth paper, so it was with no tooth. It was very difficult to get the pigment down. Then, of course, just to show I was a good sport, I colored one more, and actually 2 more from this book. There's the other one. I was messing about with adding a border and things like that. I never quite finished this one. When I talk about all my rookie mistakes, things like my signatures all being too big, too much a part of the drawing, that kind of thing. This one has the same beautiful cover. This beautiful cover was colored by Virginia Sanders Cole, who has gone on to do all of my covers. She's a beautiful colorist. She used to design needlepoint designs, and so she's really, really good with color. This was another page that I personally colored. I lost patience with using the Prismacolors, so I switched to markers right around here, but I think I got the blend fairly okay. This was also my first experience with the Uniball Signo, the white pen, the white gel pen. And I kind of overdid it, but I thought it was pretty. Got a lot of likes. This is another one that I did from this book. This is the last page in this book. Pardon me. This was my first experience with Derwent Inktense, trying to use it for a background. I thought I had ruined it. I did the background before I did anything else, and it was garish orange, apple green, and like a harvest gold, very 70s colors. Um, I went to see a live stream that Zarget Hunter did, and she took the time, thank her, bless her heart, to show me how to use the neo colors to make a like a brown wash to dull those colors down. And so that's what I did. And thereafter, it became an exercise in saving it from what is notably not the best background in the world. So I simply pulled the colors out, and I did this all with watercolor markers. Every bit of this is done with watercolor markers, except for the background. And I think I pulled it off. It's one of my favorite colorings. This is an epic fail. Everybody has them. I have this one. It is just simply ugly. Pardon me, there's no getting around it. Terrible color on the background. Way too, the glitter paint thing did not work out. It's part of the story of this book. Everybody has an epic fail. This is the story of my book. I had to bring it back from the brink of disaster. An epic fail I can do nothing about. Just have to live with it. This is another page that I colored with just watercolor markers. And I was just experimenting a little bit with pointillism. I have a tendency to mix my colors rather than blend my colors. What did I play? I was just how different colors work on the page with this. This is a current whip in this, and I'm doing this with Prismacolor. I think it's turning out very pretty. My camera is frozen apparently. And this is, remember this first iteration of this, it didn't have anything here. It was simply square. It was the only page in the book that wasn't a full page drawing. And I kind of heard about that from the people who got the book. So I did add in the second edition, I added language, flowers always make me happy, which is beautiful. I added a this book belongs to page, which wasn't in the original book. As a matter of fact, I used a adaptation from one of my future books to create this book belongs to page. And in addition, I added 5 bonus pages. By the time that I did the second release on this, I had already released my second book, so this is from that. My third book, and this is from that, called Flowers and Pliers. And my fourth book, which is actually, sorry, another brain fade, Flowers and Whimsy. And then the last bonus page is a collaboration between, I drew the main part of this, and that is all I drew. It was a part of a creatures series that I was offering in my Etsy shop. And a lady who bought it wanted to do a background. And so she added the background and sent me back a copy and asked if it was okay if she had done that. I said, certainly. And in fact, I like it so much that I would like you to send me the original so I can include it in my book. And she did, and here it is. Her name is Sue Curry. She actually turned out to be a fabulous artist, but I'll tell you more about her later. Always in my books, no matter what, I leave pages that say this page has intentionally been left blank for either a blotting page or a color testing page. I was messing around with some Pearl-Ex pigments that I had to see how they would work for a background. They're not intended to be pastels, and it was a lot of work to get them to lay down any kind of color at all, but I was playing in my book. That's what books are for. They're meant to play in. So that completes the first book. Right around the time that I released that first book, I was in a author support group, an artist support group, and in order to get a little publicity for all of us, we put together the first Treasury book. It's 55 artists. There's 10 illustrations because my last name starts with a A, ended up on the first 2 pages. So these are, that's the cover image from Flowers and Dreams. And this is, of course, page 1 of Flowers and Dreams. In addition, there are a ton of other artists in this book. And our intention with this was to introduce the colorist to a lot of different artists who draw in a lot of different styles. And then if they found something that they liked, this is Samantha Decker, then they could follow up with that artist and perhaps get more of their work. And that's what it was for. This is also a Sam Decker, and I think it's just beautiful. Anissa Clare of the Absurd series is in this book. There's 55 of us, so it's quite a bit. Jenny Lewan, as you can see, I was experimenting with trying to use watercolors as a face base. Didn't really work for me, or actually it could have worked for me. I just haven't practiced it enough. And I think this is an artist that I absolutely love. I love her work. This is Hattie Fant, who some of you may know. She does primarily paper crafting, coloring paper crafting projects for children and their moms or dads. And so this is one of her pieces, and I colored it. I think it's lovely. Probably the most recognizable thing from Hattie Fant is, whose real name, by the way, is Manya Burton. She's originally from Germany, but now lives in Indonesia. Not Indonesia. She lives in Thailand with her husband. And this is her little owl. And for a long time, this was colored in groups all over Facebook. So that was my experience with this one. I have this tag for some reason. Oh, this was this is Jim Owen, who actually is an illustrator of books, reading books. And it doesn't do crayons, but the title of this is The Green Dragon, and I started to color it. I haven't gotten very far, but I absolutely love it. I do love dragons. It's a ship mast, and then down here there are all of these little bubbles, and each bubble has a baby dragon in it. And so I was trying to do all of that, but there's, like Kirby Roseanne's, there's just a ton of tiny little detail in there. And did I mention I'm not a very patient colorist? So that's a whip. Put those down there. This is my second book, Flowers and Flower Inspirations. In everywhere it's listed as adult coloring book of flower inspirations. So, but we call it Flower Inspirations around here. Once again, now this was 3 different colorists colored the covers on this. I still hadn't learned about using bigger images at the time that I released the second book, or not using gradients. Um, but I haven't gone back and redone this book. There probably should be a second edition of this done, and I might do that. But this is one of the there's one of 3 sets of drawings that I did that are included among the many drawings in this book, and these are the botanical mandala blooms. So what I did is I did a very botanical flower on the front and then put a mandala behind it. Now I do hand draw. I don't use the computer to draw, and I don't cut and place items or do any of that kind of stuff. I actually drew this. I drew this first, the flower first, and then I had to be able to visualize the mandala behind it as it went behind the flower. And I think I pulled it off. And I pulled it off 4 times because I did exactly the same thing with this one, and this one, and this one. This is the lily. So that's a set of 4 that are in here of those. Then I did a faith, hope, charity, and love set. And then because a friend of mine was having a difficult time going through chemo, I did a gratitude, compassion, grace, and healing for her. All of my books do have smaller versions at the back of the full-size drawings. You can either use those for greeting cards, color it, glue it to a, cut it out and glue it onto a greeting card, or you can use it to test out your color palette, find out if the colors that you are thinking of using on your coloring are going to work well together. I've tried to think of as many things as possible for colorists when they're shopping for a book that they can't hold in their hands. I always try and put as many thumbnails as I can on the back, as many colored examples as I can fit. And then I always put also in the first 3 pages of my book, because those are the pages that Amazon picks up in the look inside the book feature, which so you can actually look inside the book. If you don't happen to think about where you put your thumbnails, all the buyer is going to get is informational pages. So, you know, I can give you as much information as you want about me and my other products, and but that isn't what you want to read about. You want to see what's in my book so that you know what it is that you're going to get to color. And so that's what I try and do. So that's in there, and those come up with the look inside the book feature. That was something that was a hint that someone gave me, and it was wonderful. I didn't employ it in my first book. Once again, rookie mistake. But by the time I revamped that book, I did, and I had put it in all my books since. This is my book, Flowers and Flyers. This is the one that has all the birds in it. It's got a set of 5 birds. So there's a bunting, a pair of cardinals, it's a bird, it's a yellow bird. Or you can color it any color you want. It's been colored every color, believe me. This can be a bluebird if you like. That's not what the inspiration for it was, but most people do color it as a bluebird. I want to say it was oh gosh, my brain is just not on. I shouldn't do these late at night. And then this is a bird with a basket of strawberries next to a patio. This was just a little scene that I remember from my back patio. There's another set in here. This is a dragonfly, butterfly, ladybug, and another butterfly set. There are a lot of butterflies in this book, and a lot of hummingbirds. This is the only one from this book that I've ever colored, and I did it fairly recently. And this was also my Derwent Inktense. And I just love Derwent Inktense. I do color with them like they are a marker. So I tend to use the brush as if it were a brush tip marker and mix my colors and use them accordingly. But I also, because you can get sky blends and things like that, you can do stuff like this, give a glow to the sun, and I just love them. So that's that. By the time that my third book was released, Flowers and Flyers, we were ready to do a second treasury. And so this one is 130 illustrations from 70 artists. And I didn't mention earlier, but all of these books are sold at cost. Not a bit of profit, but the colorist gets to meet all sorts of new artists. It's really been wonderful. Look at how thick this book is. 130 illustrations. Christina McAllister is in here. I'm in here. Jenny Luan. Joe Toy. Becky Dinage. There's a lot of people in here. Or not Jason, sorry. Jason Hamilton. This is from his book. I believe it's called Fantasy Mermaids. This is the one about his fairies. He's a marvelous artist. I just love Jason's work. This one is Julia Thompson, who has done a wonderful dragon book. She does a lot of Celtic art as well. I started coloring this one. It's a whip. Undersea dragons. I was playing with a purple rainbow blend and a blue, and these dragons are all protecting their dragon eggs. There's another one that I colored. Heather Burns has a book called State Flowers of the USA. This is the purple lilac. Ooh, here's my epic fail for this book. And of course it had to happen with Christina McAllister's art. I'm glad that it happened in the Treasury book and not in one of the actual books, because I did go on to collect all of her books. This is from the first Lumina Chronicles, and there is no saving this, at least not in my opinion. I tried and tried and tried and tried. I did this with watercolor markers. That was my first mistake. I was so delighted that I got a really cool skin tone. This was my first time, because I don't draw people, so I rarely color skin tone. And I got this wonderful skin tone, and then I messed it up with the color. But every book is a story, and that's the story of mine. This had Christmas drawings, the Color Me Forum, which has a lot of these pattern type pages. Colette Burgess, this is from her Chardonnay series of books, where the lady's always drinking wine and always seeing double. Ah, these are Casey Gilmore, I believe. Yeah, definitely Casey Gilmore. There's the dragon. I love this dragon. She's a wonderful wildlife artist. There's something in here for everybody. They're mine. Becky Dinage. I love Becky Dinage. She always puts an eye in all of her drawings somewhere, and that's because she draws, but her eyesight is failing. And so the eye is an homage to that, and she's going to draw for as long as she can. Beautiful Barbara Lanza, who does a marvelous fairy book. This is from Fairy Lane Volume 1. At any rate, the Treasury books are always a deal. This one is slightly more expensive because it has more pages. And I think earlier I said something along the lines of what we pay the publisher. We don't pay the publisher. We get, the publisher takes a certain amount of this price of each book, and then we are supposed to get the balance as a royalty. And what we've done is simply forego any royalty. So there's no royalty going to any of the artists on this. And nobody, including nobody but Amazon, making money on it. This is, after my first 3 books, there was a call for me to do a travel size book. So I did a little 6x9. It is top bound, which is nice. And it has adaptations of, there's 12 from each book, each of my first 3 books, so a total of 36 in this pocket size. And some of them I did have to adapt a little bit. The ones primarily from Flowers and Flyers, I adapted so that things could work a little easier for, like for instance, with this, I simply used the centers of them and got rid of the frames. I believe that I did the same thing with the bunting. I don't think I did put the entire set in this one. So there's that. The front of this one is the only book that I've ever released where the cover was not done by Virginia. This one was actually done by Shirley Olson, who did a marvelous coloring, and it was just the perfect, as you can see, this is the first time I'm putting an entire cover of the colored page together. This is my 4th book, Flowers and Whimsy, and there was a call in my group among the people who buy my books to do a little bit less detail and a little bit more easy to color. So, because you could spend hours and hours and hours coloring my stuff, and I do recognize that. Part of it is because I just get so excited about making beautiful lines on the page. And the other part is that I like to fill out the page. I don't like blank space on pages. But I listened to my people that buy my books, and so I did a book of primarily mandalas, only I zhuzhed them up a little. So the first 15 pages of this book are the more ornate drawings, but then follow 13 of the simpler, just mandala pages. of just pretty designs. And that's the one that I adapted for the uh, This Book Belongs To page in my revamp of Flowers and Dreams. This one has 6 bonus drawings, um, drawings that I originally did but hadn't put in any books when I was experimenting with Zentangle. So I included those in here. These were fun to do. Once again, it was just a playing exercise, a practicing exercise, um, being able to see behind what was in front of it without having to draw. It's hard to explain reverse drawing. You just have to be able to see what's behind it. That's all. And you can do that. I can do that. And so this one was my homage to music with a piano key layer and channeling Escher for stairways going down or coming up. Pretty jewelry, ribbons and pearls. This was fun. It's a style that I like, but it's been way overdone, and I knew that, so that's why I don't do it more often. Another mandala, my dragon claw flower, because it's dangerous. It's got these big black spikes, which could hurt you. And then, of course, the claws. Another dragon claw. And then this was just a garden gate that came into my fantasy one day, into my brain. Okay, these are the 2 that I've colored from this. The first one is one of the more ornate pages. I love the way it turned out. I love the colors that I used. I do, I was blending my little butterflies, playing with the light so that they would appear to shine. I printed this on super smooth paper. It was really hard to get any kind of color depth on it. This is another whip, and this is what I mean about my drawings. Sometimes I tend to go the detailed route. It does make them hard to color. I'm not happy with my color choices on this, which is something that I'm hoping to be able to fix. I keep toying with it and playing with it. I may eventually just toss it and start again. Oh, apparently I did color 2 more. This was, I can't decide if this is a fail or a success. I'm not entirely happy with this ocean blue green that I picked. I wished I would have picked a different color to make the transition, because I love the golden brown. I love the pink, and I love the blue and the way that I got the sky to look like a cloudy day. But I'm not fond. It was supposed to be like a representation of the earth, with the fire in the core of the earth, and then the brown with flowers growing, then mountains growing, around. And then I went water, and that was the wrong transition to the sky. And then, of course, there's my little galaxy bits there. So as an artist, it's a statement. It's just not a very good one. I used a little glitter paint on my butterflies. I love the colors that I used on the tiger butterfly. Here's my epic fail for this book. There's no coming back from how horrible this is. So I just want you to know that it happens to everybody. It seems to happen to me at least once a book. And you see that I haven't colored very many of them in each book, so I suspect that there will be more. I just think they're wonderful because for every fail, it's a learning experience. I have learned how not to use neocolors, and I have used that, or learned that that Watercolor markers do not do what I wanted them to do. Um, Orange and purple do not go together. This just this just went wrong on every level. Uh, it just makes me just tickles me to have that kind of that bad of a thing. Every time I look at it, I bust up. Uh, so you think you're an artist, huh? Okay. This is Flowers of Fantasy, which is my favorite book. Um, every artist may have one. This one is mine. Um, the color, the cover was colored by Virginia. Um, it's got all the same features. It's got some really pretty drawings, just really pretty drawings. Lots of symmetry, which is part and parcel of what I do. I like the "This Book Belongs to" page. I don't know who I was channeling here, but this was just a fun playing one day kind of thing. And by this time, I had started putting bonus pages in all of my books. This is the book that has where I started going out of the abstract design and into abstract but beautiful design and into where are they? Sort of more real things, flowers in vases, that kind of thing. This vase has been colored beautifully by some people. I left it completely up to the colorist as to what they want to do with this. Some people have put designs in it. Some have made it marbled. Some have made it clear and with water. Just all kinds of possibilities for it. One lady, I think the one that I used on the back, colored it black. Well, you'll have to come to Facebook to see that because it's on my Facebook page, or it's probably in one of my videos. I think it's in the video that I made to show the page by page of this book. This was one of my favorites to draw. I loved the framework that I did on it. Baskets full of flowers and butterflies. This is a set, one of two. The baskets face each other. This one's full of gladiola and gerbera daisies. And of course the butterfly. This was just, I was playing to see if I could draw a basket, and sure enough. This is an outside planter sitting on a little table, little garden table, with a little bird, tulips, parrot tulips. That's another outside planter. Some of my favorite poetry worked its way into some of my framework drawings. I'd actually done these as a series so that people could write their own poetry inside. And so for this book, I just pulled a few of them and used them and put my own poetry in. So this is John Boyle O'Reilly, who's done whose poem is The White Rose. William Shakespeare, Sonnet 116. It's the same one that Kate Winslet recites when she's gazing longingly down at Willoughby's house in Jane Austen's not Pride and Prejudice, it's the other one. Not Persuasion. It's the one with Emma Thompson as her sister. And it'll come to me, but at any rate, she ends up marrying Alan Rickman's character in the end, who I was secretly hoping she would anyway, because he was so good looking. And it's a shame he's dead. May he rest in peace. Lord Byron. in this one, and this I colored. My favorite quote in the world: "No one is useless in this world who lightens the burdens of another." This is a small, obscure quote from Charles Dickens from one of his lesser known books, but it just means the world to me. And so it's surrounded by pansies. And then Emily Dickinson's Hope. And that one is: "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul." And I cannot read it because it makes me cry. So we shall let you do that if you decide that this is a book that you like. This was obscure. This is the bonus pages. So this was just a little fish drawing that I did one day when I was playing around with some shapes and they looked like fish. So I added some bubbles and I threw in some seaweed, and this was my first quad drawing, and this will make an appearance in my next book. Not my next book, but the book I did after this one. And this is what I drew. I just simply cut a page or not cut a page, but drew a line across on a page, and then I proceeded to draw 4 different designs in each quadrant. And then what I did was, in my computer, I pulled them apart, and even I didn't know what design they were going to make. And then I mirrored them and then mirrored that again. And they made this really cool design. And people liked it, and so I included it in my next book. This is my dragon flower, but I stripped out all the black before it had all that black ink, and people complained, so I put it in here as a bonus page without the black ink. These were greeting cards that I used to do. There was a set of 6 of them, and they were square, and they were colorable greeting cards. So I don't do them anymore, but those were some of the drawings from them. This was just a little doodle I did one day, playing with some geometry. And as you can see, my advertising pages are starting to fill out. Now I'm in 4 of my own, plus this one, both treasuries, and my other book. Now I will have to put a picture of the cover of each of my succeeding 2 books. This one is Flowers of Wonder. Picture should show up right about here. And from that book, I colored this, which is the work in progress, and this, which is the finished version of the page that you've seen me working on before. So this is how it turned out. And then my newest book also is going to have a picture. Now the reason why I'm showing the pictures instead of the actual physical books is that I have given away my last copies of both of those books, and I have not yet ordered new ones for myself. These are 2 that I'm working on. This one is Marty Woods. This was a free drawing from his group called I See You. Well, his group isn't called I See You. His books are Color the Rainforest, I want to say. And, I don't remember the name of the other one. Bunian. At any rate, I will put a link to it down below. But Marty is a marvelous artist and very popular books. And so this is something that I was coloring for him, doing a little advanced blending work. This was my recent entry for August in with Shalene Tolan's group on Facebook, and then also for the Coloring Haven coloring event in last month, yeah, in August, with A Colorful Life. And so this is what I colored for that. It's the drawing is by Marjorie Sarnett. It's from her book with Creative Haven called Creative Cats, and I just loved it. I thought it was a fun little drawing to color. All those different cats. If I only had 9 lives, let me spend them all with you. Aww. The brand new clean copy with no epic fails. I'm not going to touch it until I'm over my disaster from the last one. That's Christina McAllister, Magical Beauties. I'm going to show you the cover of these, but I'm not going to go any further with it for right now. I will talk about these in a separate video. These are artist Sue Curry, and they're wonderful. And Sue has been a combination sister, fairy godmother, cheerleader, biggest fan, amazing human being person in my life, and a marvelous artist in her own right. And she did not draw for years because of an injury and was unclear if she could draw, and it turned out that she could. So I encouraged, she delivered, and I helped her turn her art into these books, and I'm going to do a separate video on them. This one is Living on Memory Lane. This one is The Adventures of Little Sister. There are several other books as well that she has completed, and she has a new one underway, which I'll mention as well. But like I say, I'm going to wrap up for now because I've gone on long enough. I hope everybody had a wonderful day. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I promise I will not drone on about myself or my art for many more videos. I want to do with this channel. I would obviously like you to buy my books, but I also want to hopefully share some of the things that I know, learn the things that you would like to know about, and see if I can find answers to those for you. And just introduce you to new artists, talk about people, not talk about people, but talk about people that you might not know, but that you might enjoy. And until then, I will wrap up. Bye, everybody.